Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Cox, and we welcome you to the New America Movement podcast. We have an exciting show for you today, and let me say it's good to have my co-host and son, Jordan Cox. Jordan, say hello.
How's it going, everybody? How y'all doing this evening?
We have a great show for you tonight, and we're going to be talking about some very interesting things that are happening around the country. No doubt, every time you cut your TV on, any podcast, radio show, regardless if it's the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, man, Biden is losing big time. Let's just face the fact. The Biden administration has been a failure for this country. And just over a year running this country, we have seen increasing inflation like we haven't seen in 4 decades. We have political unrest in this country like we have never seen since the Civil War. We have this massive foreign policy that is grinding at the very heart of the core of the American people, saying around the world that we cannot live up to the expectations of what our forefathers taught and many of the presidents that have followed him have been able to do. China is beating us to death. Russia is attacking Ukraine without any fear of the United States. I think a lot of times when we look back at what's going on in foreign policy, our economy, the gas prices, just the civil unrest in this country, we got to know we need leadership in this country. And one of the most interesting things that I find just listening to news outlets, watching both liberal and conservative media, podcast and TV programs, a lot of folks are turning on the Biden administration. They're realizing they made a terrible mistake allowing this guy to get in office. Remember, just over a year and a half ago, they were so big on the Biden administration. He's the man that's going to lead this country. He's the man that's going to bring us together. And even Biden himself said, my goal is going to bring the country together. I'm going to resolve our economy. I'm going to bring down gas prices. I'm going to make us independent of any foreign fossil fuels. We're going to see this country leap forward in a brand new way. And you know, for the first 6 months in office, he pushed this infrastructure bill, which in essence has been a complete failure because all it was raising taxes, putting this country deeper in debt, and giving out free clips to everyone in this country that really doesn't need it. So it's a failure. Let me just turn it over to my son, let him jump on this real quick.
Absolutely. You're 100% correct. It is a complete failure. The Biden administration, his approval ratings are in the crapper. I mean, even the people that voted for him are now saying, we don't want this guy in office. We made a mistake. We are starting, and the ones that are saying we didn't make a mistake are looking and saying, well, this wasn't what we quite thought it would be. You know, it sounded good at the time because we got Bad Orange Man out, but now, all of a sudden, you're seeing higher crime in these cities. You're seeing a bunch of stuff that you just didn't see in the previous administration that everybody thought you would see with the division and stuff like that. You're really seeing the division with Joe Biden, and that's why I personally believe that his approval ratings are going to the crapper, is because literally you have the American people who he's promised stuff to Black America, the Green New Deal people or the green people, you know, the tree hugger people. Sorry, that's what you guys are. Love you guys anyway.
And we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years.
But he made these promises.
I got to do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will. You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Can't keep them. And he forgot, once I win the presidency and once I become president, I actually have to govern.
I think one of the key problems that the Biden administration is making is they're just listening to the left. Activists, the crazy left people like AOC who are trying to bring programs to America that are just not relevant to the average Joe. For example, people like AOC, Buttigieg, they all say, well, go buy an electric vehicle. Well, you know what? 90% of the people in America don't make over $100,000 a year, and they can't afford a $65,000 electric car like Buttigieg says. Just go out and buy one. It'll fix your problem. Well, that's not relevant to where most American people are living in this country. Most people needed to buy gas and needed to buy it cheap. I don't think they oppose being winged off of fossil fuels, but they didn't want to do it all in one day. And now we have this crisis in our country where gas prices are over $4 in most states in our union. And so I would say that just looking back at inflation, gas prices, the unrest in our country, this administration has really made some bad mistakes. But I think a lot of it hinges on the fact that instead of governing in a moderate manner, he has gone all the way to the left. Just like the infrastructure program I spoke about earlier, it's just an increase in taxes. Now, do we need to do these things? Yes. But you know what? Some folks want to go to Hawaii, but it doesn't mean you go out and charge it on your credit card just because you want to go or you think you need a vacation. Maybe you do. But going in debt for it's not an answer. And that's what we've done in this country. We're just passing financial devastation onto our grandchildren. And you can only say that it's just a result of poor administration in this country. And so while the Biden administration may pat themselves on the back for thinking this is good legislation, I think most grassroots Americans know that our grandkids are going to have a tough time dealing with this almost $30 trillion debt. So here's the hardcore facts, Jordan, and I want our people to give us response back to what they think. This poor leadership in this country is going to cost the Democratic Party. It's going to cost them votes and seats in the House and the Senate. Most analysts say that it's almost assuring that they're going to flip the House. That means that Biden is pretty much going to get shut down on a lot of his policies over the next 2.5 years. So with that being said, that's good because we got to stop Biden from bringing these left-wing ideologies to the local people in this country who are driving up inflation at a rate that we haven't seen in 4 decades. So I think that's good, and I hope they can flip the Senate. Now, that's a question. It can be done. But one of the hot seats that we want to talk about in a few moments is going to be our neighbor to the west of us, and that's Georgia, because you have this seat where Raphael Warnock won last year during the presidential race. And now he's got another final election coming up this November, and he has a challenger, Herschel Walker. Now, most of you know him as a great football player. So, Jordan, jump in on this and share with the folks what you think about it.
You're right. He's one of the greatest running backs the NFL's ever seen. And also, he's leading Raphael Warnock, which is fabulous because Raphael Warnock is the epitome of what you call a false prophet. I'm gonna just say it. He's a pastor and all this, but while he's up there preaching behind Martin Luther King's podium, I guess that gives him all of the passes and rights in the world to get away with anything he wants to get away with. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that this guy says that makes you say you're extremely racist. You're extremely out there when it comes to stuff. Go ahead.
You know, the interesting thing about Warnock, this pastor, is that he's preaching to a black congregation, and the only message he has is a message of racism. Yeah. It is a message of how the white man has done the black man wrong.
Correct.
And while, you know, some of that is going to be true, we have moved way past that in the last several decades.
Yes.
And to use that as the pulpit as a way to sell that to the American people, I think most of us are a little bit wiser than that. What's your other message other than the fact that you think that the white man has treated the black man bad in this country? Okay, I get that. That's your message. That's your platform. But how do you lead this country just on that one issue? It's sort of like Stacey Abrams. All she is about is the revival of black America, welfare. And they say this is not welfare. What's education? If it's taxes and it's got to be given away, it's a form of welfare. This country is already almost $30 trillion in debt, and 60% of the debt in our country comes from welfare programs. So you can't keep trying to solve social issues with welfare. We're already applying this by the trillions of dollars a year, and you can't keep adding on to that. And our leaders like Stacey Abrams and Raphael Warnock have to have a better platform than just that. If you want to lead this country, lead it on real issues like how do you build this country where we can compete in foreign markets like against China, which is beating us to death. I want to hear your policies on that. I want to hear you give me a platform on how we're going to stop this, because in the next decade, China is literally going to take the world over as the strongest military country and probably the strongest economic country in the world. And it's happening because of the way we do politics. And we're just giving we're throwing the baby out with the water, because simply our idea is that we're going to play the short game with China, and we're going to all get rich off this little economical burst we're having around the world. But at the end, it's going to cost us more than we're going to be willing to pay.
Right.
I want to hear these leaders talk about that, because that's the real issues in this country.
See, this is my thing. So you have a guy, Herschel Walker, that's running against Warnock. And you're right, he does, his stuff is all about hate and how the white man's going to keep you down and all this other stuff. And I just want to make this very clear. Martin Luther King's message was not that. Martin Luther King's message was not, let's segregate blacks and whites. His message was not, let's keep this. It already was that way. He was trying to stop that. Then you have another African-American guy coming in behind Martin Luther King's podium saying the exact opposite message, and y'all were cheering for him. So we got this guy, Herschel Walker, who's a football star that comes in, and everybody's like, well, how is this guy going to be anything? He's not a politician. Neither was Donald Trump. To me, he could be good. He could be very, very good. Here's why. Because of the simple fact that you have President Trump, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, and other prominent Republicans that are endorsing him, that are coming out and speaking for him. He has a lot of people behind him in his corner that are prominent figures in the Republican Party. So they see something there that, hey, this guy can make a difference. He's not going to come in here and preach hate and preach against, oh, well, white man bad. He's not going to come in here and just completely destroy all of this stuff. He's going to come in with a message of actual unity. Actual unity, which means blacks and whites go to the same pizza party together, which means that your kids, no matter what color they are friends. Same thing Martin Luther King wanted. Why is it that y'all can't seem to figure out that the leaders y'all have in office that are these Democrat leaders like the Warnocks of the world are preaching the opposite message of what Martin Luther King is doing? So they bring in this guy and says, look, this is the guy for it. We're endorsing him. And I got to say, I personally think a guy that's not a politician will make the best politician because he's not corrupt. Right? He hadn't been in it for 20 years. He ain't been in it for 5 years, 15 years, 6 years. He's getting in it. He knows what he wants to do, and he's going to come in with a strong message. And I think it's good for Georgia. Georgia's in a split right now. And you have, some areas where you could go before, and you're like, man, this is beautiful, and this is, I could leave my kid here for 2 hours and come back, and it's going to be right there perfectly fine. Now you'd be scared to even drive through it with a full tank of gas because of the simple fact that crime is through the roof. Okay? Democrat-run areas, crime's through the roof. It's just a fact. Look it up. So he's going to come in and clean this up. That's what I expect from him. That's what I expect. And apparently that's what Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, and all of these other Republicans expect from him as well, too. And I got to say, I agree.
I think the race will be interesting. I hope we can flip the Senate too. I think Herschel Walker will be a fresh voice to the people of Georgia. He's certainly not a politician, but he's not going to be as liberal as Warnock. And I think he will do what perhaps it will be impossible for him to do. He will have a message that is very different and very clean in terms of being able to identify the real problems in Georgia. and that is the rise of crime, the economy, keeping people working, controlling inflation.
Also, he's anti-abortion. So you have Republican Georgia Senate candidate Herschel Walker received an endorsement Tuesday from a prominent anti-abortion organization. National Right to Life is pleased to endorse Herschel Walker for the U.S. Senate. That is Carol Tobis, the organized president, said in her statement just then. So you have one of the most prominent anti-abortion organizations in the country backing this guy, too. I like that. I like the fact that he's going to come in there because Warnock's for abortion. He's for abortion while preaching the gospel to you from a pulpit. Make that make sense to me real fast. For real, comment, let me know about that. I like it. I like the fact that we have a guy coming in here saying, we're not going to let you kill babies. I like the fact that we got a guy coming in that was a football player that's got a past. He's got a past. He's got a past. I'm not going to bring it up all through this. And it's going to be one of them things where he's going to have to overcome it. He's going to have to overcome it. He's already owned it. He's going to have to own it again. Welcome to politics, Herschel. This is what it is. But I would rather take a guy who has a past, okay, but has a very prominent future because of that past. He learned from it. He made mistakes, but he learned from it, and now he's growing. And he's now a better man because of his past. I would take that guy than a guy that has a good past, but where he's at right now is the epitome of evil, Warnock. You see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather have that guy in office because he's going to protect my baby. I'd rather have that guy in office because he's going to protect my rights as an American citizen. Warnock, let me make this very clear, does not care about you. Black America, Warnock does not care about you.
Well, I think, too, Herschel will attack the job issue in Georgia.
Absolutely.
I think his goal will be to help raise minorities to find better jobs and to get better opportunities. His message will be very different than Warnock's, and I just hope the people of Georgia will get behind him. I think, too, most people in Georgia and across the country realize that the Democrats' message, their policies have failed them, literally, have just turned this country upside down and made it one of the and have made it worse for the American people, and especially the black community, than it has been in decades. Yeah. And if we don't figure out how to turn this around very quickly, all of us as citizens are going to suffer severely. And what I try to tell the people, too, people that are making a lot of money in this country don't feel that pressure as bad, but your average person that's making $60,000, $70,000 a year and below are really suffering right now. Yeah. And it's directly because of the Biden administration and how they have implemented these policies that don't affect people like Buttigieg, that not going to affect Stacey Abrams, they're not going to affect the Biden administration, but it does affect the average Joe that gets up at 7 o'clock in the morning, hits the street and has to go to a job, whether it's construction, the auto industry, whether it's retail. Those people are being killed because of gas prices, inflation on rents, just many things that are biting at them right now and causing them to feel that economic pressure in their family. So Herschel, I hope, will come around with some great ideas, some great leadership, and I think he'll be an asset to the Senate if elected. So I'd like to see the people of Georgia get behind him and realize you need that breath of fresh air. It's going to be a benefit to you. Go ahead, Jordan.
Georgia, get behind him. Georgia, go out and vote. Because if Warnock stays in office, he's running for a full term, which means he'll be in there for 6 years, which means you'll have him for 6 years. You don't want that. This guy is the epitome of evil. This is you can say that's your opinion, and you're right. It's my opinion. I just think if you are a person that gets up behind and preaches the word of God, and in the same sentence can condone abortion, a murder of a baby, you're a hypocrite to me. You are a false prophet to me. You are not a real minister to me. You're not. Georgia, if you want to keep this life that you got right now, go ahead and put Warnock in for 6 years, and let's see how that goes for you. I pray to God you don't do that, because you need to get behind Herschel Walker. You need to get him in there because there is a lot of people that is going to come with him. You'll have jobs, more jobs. And guess what? Just guess what? Abortions could come to a very, very low number if you put them in there.
We hope the people of America will wake up and realize that we need more conservative policies in this country. We need a change in the White House. We need a change in the Senate. Hopefully, we're going to get one in the House. This is exciting time for us.
Coming.
The red wave is coming, son. And that's what bad policies do to you. When
Absolutely.
the people of this country see the failures of administration, they have enough sense to go out and vote and say, we're going to stop this. So thank you for tuning in to the New America Movement. God bless you. Have a great day. We'll see you next week.